Hey, good evening, everybody. How are things today? Hope your day was super cool. I had another day of adventuring with Tiny Dungeons with some interesting results that I'll be sharing with you tonight. And it was quite the day. This is my second time, first time with eighth graders, but my second time doing it with the Boys and Girls Club at a school. And what I found today was, like I said, to be some interesting stories came out of this one, and I think you will find it. I think there's two stories, and one is just unbelievably bonkers. One is super powerful, and there's some in-between stuff as far as the adventuring goes that would be, as an overall group, was fairly interesting. If you happen to be watching this and you're brand new here to the channel, first of all, thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. My name is Paul, a.k.a. Flint Fireforge, and I do videos here about DM advice, talking about how to run games, doing reviews, doing kind of recaps of adventures that I run. So if that's your jam, be sure to go ahead and click the subscribe button, and you will get all kinds of goodness here. Plenty of videos here to watch. You can check out the channel. And so today, a little recap of what I've been using. Like I said, for those that don't know, I've been using Tiny Dungeons. And this is a 2d6 system, essentially. And basically, you're rolling 2d6, or you're adding a dice for advantage, or you are subtracting a dice for disadvantage. So you're rolling up to 3 dice, 4 if if you have a weapon mastery, I think. But yeah, so it's all about the d6s, and we had some amazing results today. Past the two sessions that I've done. The first group I did with a group of 6th graders. Today's group was with a group of 8th graders and some 6th graders. I'll explain in a second. So basically for the next 3 weeks, I'll be doing 6th graders, 8th graders, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll be running games. And once again, it was a fun session. A fun session today. And we're going to break it down for you. So the first thing is, let me just, like I said, it's doing Tiny Dungeons, which this is my first time running Tiny Dungeons, and it's a good system. I'll point out some things in a minute here that I don't use as of yet, because I just think maybe there's too much fiddling to go along with it. I don't know. We'll see. But those of you that are joining, feel free to jump in the chat, say hello, tell me where you're at, what you're doing, how your day was. Have you ever played Tiny Dungeons? Would love to know. Let me know there in the chat. And let's see here, what do we got? All right, so let's get into the story today. So for those that don't know, for the 6th graders, I am running an adventure from the fantastic Lairs series by Scott Fitzgerald, Jamie Tricasso, and Michael Shea. And the adventure I'm doing there, I believe, is the Temple of the Cockatrice. I want to say that's what it is. I think I'm mashing up to it. I think I'm mashing up 2 adventures. But that adventure is, they are just now on the cusp of entering into this cave. Oh, Caves of the Cockatrice, that's what it is. The other one, the second adventure, is the Temple of something. I can't remember what it is. But all of these adventures, these fantastic Lair adventures, they go 1 through 20, and they're really, really good. I've used these in multiple scenarios. I've used them at the local game store. I've used them at cons. I've used them in various places. So if you're looking for some great layers that go 1 through 20, right here, I'll put the links in the description. you can check that out. But the group of 6th graders currently is about to enter the cave. And if you haven't watched my last video, if you check out my live videos, the last live video before this one, I did a whole breakdown of Tiny Dungeons, the rules, most of the rules, the cheat sheet, the characters that were involved, all that kind of good stuff. And you can watch that video. And then in this video, like I said, I'll be talking more about the adventures. But if you're looking for some good adventures, let me encourage you to check out Fantastic Lairs. It'll be in the show notes. I'll drop it in the chat, though, if you would like. This is built for 5e, but, I mean, when you're playing a 2d6 system and everything's got between 1 and 10 hit points, it's very flexible in that regard. So, let me go ahead and drop that here. Let's see. I'll drop it in the chats for you. And there we go. So if you are interested in Fantastic Lairs, those are some good Lairs. Encourage you to check them out. Now, for this, I'm using a different adventure. I'm using the same game system, but I'm using a different adventure for 8th graders. Because I don't want them talking about the adventure. I know there's pros and cons to it. There's pros and cons to playing the same one. The problem is if one gets ahead, they're all in the same group. They may chat about it, and I don't want anything spoiled for anybody. So I have chosen, for the 8th graders, the Fey Sisters Fate from Goodman Games, and that is also 5e. Once again, it is, for a 2d6 system, it's, no-brainer as far as that goes. But what I like about this, what I like about the Fey Sisters Fate, there's lots of great little encounters. There's lots of little things that little smaller encounters within the adventure that the adventurers can get caught up into. And so if you're interested in in this particular adventure, there'll be links down below as well. If you're interested in that, and as well as there's a bundle of these adventures, which are also very good. I will drop them in the chats as well, and then you can check them out if you want to. Let's see here. And then, so today's adventure, we'll get into that, was with 8th graders. And I had 2 8th graders. 2 were not there. So I said, would you like to invite some other people in? I told the unit director, would you like to invite some other kids from the group? Well, I wound up getting the other 2 6th graders, which is so funny. I got 2 of the 6th graders that were there before. They wanted to play some more. So so I got the 2 6th grade boys, 2 8th grade girls. So the dynamics there are quite amusing. And I started them off, and what I like about this adventure, like I said, is lots of little encounters. So I started them off in the town. They just arrived into town, and I moved things along pretty quickly. We only have an hour and 45 minutes, or an hour and a half. See, 3:30, 4:30. Yeah, hour and a half. And I wanted to get as much in as I could. Once we do the character makeup, which takes all of about 10 or 15 minutes for them to explain, and I explain everything they get in their little bag of stuff. I explain their backpack of items they have in there. I talk about filling out the little index card, because I usually have them do little index cards where they go ahead and bend it, and then on one side they put their real name, and on the side they put their character's name, and that'll come into play here in just a second as to what the powerful story is behind this particular adventure. And so what we started off with, we told them, said, okay, now all of them, except for the 2 6th grade boys, the 2 girls had virtually no experience. I asked one of the young ladies said, do you have any experience here? And she says, well, from watching a TV show. And I was like, I pretty much know what that TV show is. But I said, well, what show was it? And she goes, well, Stranger Things. I said, I think you're going to get a lot of what you see here. And what you saw on the show, maybe, as far as, arguing with each other, combat, that kind of thing. So we started off with they're entering into the town, and I tell them there are, because I like to start what Mike Shea calls a fast start, and I like a fast start as well. The sooner I get students rolling dice, or any player at the table rolling dice, I feel like that's a good thing. Not a lot of lore dump. I'm using setting neutral. So there's no real setting because there's no sense in getting into lore or any of the bigger things or anything like that. I've just dialed into, focus into one little spot in time in this little town. And in this town, I said, as you enter into the town, there is signs. You see posters, parchment posters on the trees. And they say, please, it says, warning, have your kids in before dark. And as we're moving along, one of the young men who is playing a bear, he's playing a kudzu, I'll say a kudzu, playing a kudzu, which is a bear, and he says, I use my sniffing power to see if I can smell anything, which is really smart. I say, well, you do smell the scent of goblins are here. That either they've been here, they are here. But you do have a slight whiff of goblins, which there had been, according to, the thing here, there had been some attacks and so forth. So the goblins were coming in, and they suddenly hear a mother scream as they're entering town. And the mother's screaming bloody murder, and she's standing at the end of the road. She's holding a shoe, what looks like a young boy's shoe, screaming out for her son Lazarus. And she's yelling and going on, and she's inconsolable because she fears the goblins will take her, which they have. And so they go to rush to her. They tell her, "Hey, we can help." And then I say, "What are they going to do?" Well, we're going to look around. I said, "Okay, we'll go and roll your dice." And I think at this point somebody rolls a 2d6, and they automatically catch that the goblins had gone around the buildings and so forth, and we're heading back into the woods. And one of them was carrying this kid with his hand over his mouth, and the kid's trying to yell and trying to do some things. Anyway, they rush to come after him, and they run after them, and they eventually catch up to the goblins, and they wind up doing battle. So the characters at play here are the kudzu, which is a bear, and then you had a lizard. There's a type called a dancer. There's a lizard dancer, kind of a character, kind of a class, if you call it that, and also a dwarf dancer. They have some dancing abilities. So I thought that was funny. So, I made it to where the storyline was with the dancers kind of knew each other because they had gone to dance school together. And so they wind up shooting their arrows. And this is where one young lady goes ahead and rolls. This is where the two sixes were rolled, which was epic, right? On a 20, you get, it's an epic thing. On the D6, it's 2d6. If you get 2 sixes, something epic happens. 2 ones, something bad happens. And so on the 2 sixes she rolls, she just puts an arrow through a goblin's eye and winds up taking out one of the goblins. Then the one goblin, they eventually take out, there's 3 goblins, 2 of them they take out, one, the goblin, and she says, well, I'll shoot one arrow, I'll shoot over there, and I let her come up with a reason why she might be able to shoot with advantage, or maybe I think she used focus maybe, which is I think you can with advantage if you're using focus. So she focuses and winds up hitting and, gets a goblin right in the shoulder. He drops the kid. The kid, runs off, running back to his mother. But before that happened, the bear decided it wanted to intervene and was yelling at the goblin. Like, if you don't let that kid go, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat the kid. I'm going to eat the kid. And then my eyes got really big. And I was like, he's going to eat the kid? And then I asked him, I said, are you bluffing this guy? Are you bluffing? No, I am really going to eat that kid. I'm going to eat the goblin. I'm going to eat the kid. I'm going to eat everybody. I'm like, okay. So that was really funny. I was just like, okay, here we go. We have chosen violence early here, and that would set the pace really for the rest of the evening, the rest of the session. So he's like, I'm going to eat everybody, and the 6th grade boy is like, it's like perfect, like that's exactly how I expect you to react. I give him a chance. Are you bluffing? Nope, gonna eat everybody. So that's where the 2 shots come in later. Releases the boy, thankfully. Released the boy because we didn't want the boy to get eaten. That'd been awful. And then they wind up taking out the last goblin. So that's how it started off. Then they decided, yes, they'll go on this. They told them, hey, we're missing some people from the town. Some people there. And the scenario, the whole adventure revolves around this. I can tell you this. There's a river and there's a dryad basically at each end. And they're sisters. That's why it's called the Fate of the Sisters. And they have, they're first going to run into the first dryad. And then they're going to meet the second, well, not meet the second. They're going to find out that probably the second dryad is dead. So, they're going to have to go along this river, have these various encounters, and eventually go rescue some of the townspeople that have been taken captive by the frog people. I think they're grungs is what I think they're called. So the grungs have them. And there's also, I just ordered a froghemoth because I think the froghemoth needs to be the big boss. And so they go then, they said, all right, we're going to go into the woods. They go there, they go to the dryad tree. And now some of the townspeople that are missing are like a militia. They were going after trying to find the goblins, and they wound up getting captured by the grung. And now they're there, slave labor, basically, damming the river. And it's causing the dryads who are getting nourishment from the river to their trees. It's going to be, it's a problem. So they get to the first dryad tree in this clearing, and I tell them all the things, right? The river looks, it's all dried up. I said, how are you going to approach? Well, they said they're going to approach the tree. And so these 3 of the militia are going to come out, and they're all under the dryad spell. They're charmed. And so they wound up fighting with this, and I could have, once they were hit, let the spell drop, but I decided to just go ahead and keep it because they were going to fight for the dryad. So that was their first reaction, though. The adventuring party, I say, they come out and they're not provoking action. They're not being violent. They're protecting the tree. That's what the dryad has charmed them for. Protect the tree. And I said, well, what would you like to do to the party? And the party says, well, we'd like to fight them. I'm like, okay, just go. You just want to fight them. I just let them have reign. Whatever choices you want to make. I did tell them, I said, go ahead and everybody roll your dice. And then I allowed somebody who had gotten a 6 or a 5, which is what you have to do to succeed. I said, well, you do see, the first thing you see is that their eyes are glazed over. Like they're here, but they're not really here. To let them know, hey, these people are charmed. They're maybe doing things that are not, of their own free will. They did not catch on to that. So they are just straight fighting now, these poor militia guys. Then I have them roll again. And I say, on there, they're wearing these kind of colorful sashes or across their midsection or across over their shoulder kind of a thing that had the initials or that basically I had written out that they are they're Bluff City, I'll say, something like that. Bluff City Militia. So they see that. And they're still fighting with them. And then eventually go, oh, okay. So they're like, maybe we shouldn't fight them. But they were still fighting them. I said, all right, well, here's the deal. You're going to have to get out of this because if you don't want to hurt them or whatever, you're going to have to figure out because they're going to fight you until you either back away from the tree or until you make some conversation. So anyway, it wound up getting worked out. The dryad, I think I had the dryad just drop the spell because she didn't want the townspeople to die. She still needed people to protect her tree. So rather than fight to the death, because they weren't winning anyway, they weren't doing very well. And so the party did not care for the dryad at all. I say, what would you like to do? Because then they figured in their mind, they said, oh, this tree has now entrapped them. So the tree's a villain, not somebody they're supposed to help. They're the villain. So now they are shooting arrows at the dryad and hitting with a few of them, which I think that's how the spell gets broken, is that they wind up shooting the dryad and the spell gets broken and over them. And then they sort of explain it all. I said, what would you like to do? I said, and then she kind of explains herself. The dryad does. And we're sort of now on track. We're sort of on track to hopefully, get on mission here. And so they wind up going through that. But the fact that they chose 8th grade, 2 8th grade girls, 2 6th grade boys, just shows violence. They just said, we just don't care. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fight. And that's fine. We worked it out. So that's where we ended the adventure. We went through that, did a couple of encounters. I think we did a whole hour and 10 minutes, something like that. We cut it short because during the adventure, there was one young lady in the group who kind of had her head down, and she just looked like she was disengaged, right? And I didn't know why. I was engaging her. I was asking, if she wanted to make a roll or if she wanted to do this, what would her character do? All the things to keep her engaged. But this wasn't like a normal, like I'm bored type of thing. So I said, I think we're going to wrap up here, guys. This is a good stopping point. Now you know what's going on. You know what your mission is. You did not find the person that they sent it for, her name was Melinda, I think. And anyway, she has been captured. The rest of the party, the rest of the militia had been captured by the Grung, and so now you got to find them. So they're going to go along the river, the dried up river, because they're damming up the river. The Grung are to create their little ecosystem of swamp, basically they can live in. And at the end of the adventure, after I said, okay, we're done, one of the young ladies, the one that was trying to engage, seemed like she was checked out, just was standing there, and I couldn't see her face. And then she kind of turned sideways a little bit, and I noticed that she was crying. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Did I hurt this young? Did I just hurt this young lady's feelings? Did I do something wrong? Right? We're always wondering, did we do something wrong there? Hey there, Death Angel. Good to see you. No problems. Glad you're here. I've been talking about the adventures of my second adventure. You can probably go back and watch the beginning there. But I'm talking about this young lady who I once upon was standing up and she turned to the side a little bit, and I could see she was crying. And I was like, what have I done? Is this my fault? Have I done something wrong? And eventually I called over the other leader, who was the unit director, and she took her in, and she wound up coming back. And after I'm packing up and everything, like I said, we played for about an hour and 10 minutes, something like that. Cut it short about 20 minutes, because of, feeling like this young lady was kind of struggling. And anyway, she comes out, the unit director comes out, the young lady goes back to class. And I said, is everything okay with her? Is anything I did? Was something I did wrong? Well, I didn't say that. I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, is she okay? And I was thinking, is this my fault? Did I push them too hard? Did I push them over the edge? She tells me no. She tells me she's okay. She is struggling with a death in her family. And I said, wow. I said, for somebody to come in and play a game who's recently lost somebody close to her. I don't know if it was a family member or not. Might have been a good friend. And I said, wow. I could see. I told her, I said, well, I could see that she was struggling. And I said, well, she did good. I hope that she'll come back. And she said, yeah, she'll probably come back. She'll come back and play. And then she said, she says, you know what's interesting though? And I said, what was that? She goes, the name of the friend that that died, that was the name she used for her character. I said, really? That's the name she chose for her character. And I started to think about that. I said, wow. I said, you never know what this game unlocks for somebody. You never know what's lying underneath when kids are playing this game. What is coming out of them? And I just looked at the unit director. I said, wow. I said, that's pretty powerful. I said, because in the phase where you say, look, you're naming your character, she chose her friends, the person that was close to her name to play as her character. And I said, wow. I said, that's a way to honor somebody, huh? To name your character. And obviously the young lady probably doesn't grasp it the way we grasp those things, but it was a powerful moment, I think, for her. And I'm not going to bring it up to her, but the fact that she is channeling her friend as the name of her character, to have her, this is, once again, I'm theorizing, I'm not a counselor or a therapist or anything like that, but having worked with young people for as long as I have, I would make the connection that, she wanted her friend with her at the moment, that this is a hard time, and what better way to maybe to honor her than to put her name down as the character. I was like, man, that's crazy. And I've had several, moments like that in various games, things like that with kids, but this was something. And so she will likely come back to the table, which is great, because playing games like this, I think, are cathartic anyway, for no other reason. They're fun, but there is a catharsis there, which I think this young lady was having something of that, where when you're playing a game, you're with all these heavy feelings she had, was just kind of and writing her friend's name down was just like a tribute. I thought, well, that's cool. That's a cool thing. That's a cool thing to be, to see it and to know it. Once again, I would never bring it back up, but to simply know it is, from my part, is like, that was cool. That's something cool there. It's something to be observant of, and also to be aware that everybody around your table, be empathetic. You have no idea what anybody's going on in anybody's life around that table, or why they're playing this game that you're running. Maybe they're playing because they're sad, or they're playing the game because they've had an incredibly hard day. They're playing this game because they need community. Whatever it is, be empathetic to the people around your table, even if you know them. I don't know these kids from anybody. All the more reason to be empathetic. But especially, even if you don't know the people or do know the people, just remember, you never know who's sitting in those chairs, and you never know what kind of feelings they have, and you never know why they're playing the game, and why is it important to them, and why is it meaningful to them. Just something to keep in mind, right? Something to keep as a part of, running the game. That's a quality I think a DM has to have, is to be both discerning and empathetic. That the people around your table there's some people possibly around your table that are hurting, people around your table that are going through dark times, people at your table, whether it's a convention, whether it's a, whether it's a game store, strangers, friends, whatever it is, just keep in mind that people go through hard times and they're around that table. I go to play when I can't play on Monday nights now because my job, I'm 40 minutes away from home by the time I get off work, and I'm not going to get home on time, and I'm not one to come in late to a game. But when I play and I join in games, I'm there. My days aren't so great either, just like everybody else, right? I said, man, I really need some time to play, to process, to have some fun, to blow off steam. And sometimes it's just maybe do nothing in a game. Like some of my characters just hang back. Right? Not all my characters are crazy barbarians. you know. Some of them, my characters are just there. They're going to hang back and follow the lead. Like I think when I played with Chubby Funster, and he was playing that crazy paladin, and Mike, the erudite DM, was running the game. My character was a blank slate. I really didn't have any character planned out. He just showed up, just a mercenary, and I didn't need any spotlight time. I said, "Oh, great! I will just become Chubby Funster's character." What was it, Chubby Funster? He was French, and I said, "Well, I'm just going to be his assistant or his ward or something like that." I was just going to, I'm just going to serve him and assist him, like in a funny way, not like in a super serious way, but more like a sarcastic way, which is what I try to cast it as. That he was doing it because eventually I thought this paladin's going to get just roasted at some point. So I made a funny deal, but eventually that's just the character I took on. He was just going to be there to reinforce this paladin's delusion of his greatness. I said, "Well, great. That's my role for tonight. That's what I'm going to do. I don't have to be the star for everything." So, and I don't need a ton of spotlight time. I'll just play my part in whatever I get to do. So anyway, that is my Tiny Dungeon dispatch from the Tiny Dungeon. I don't know if I should call it Tiny Dungeon Diaries. I might change it to that. Yes, Death Angel, you need to find people to play. Why don't you have anybody to play? There's people, no gamers around you, no game stores. What's wrong with people where you live? These people where you live. Are they not cool? Do they not have, do they not know how to roll dice? It's their problem. But that's kind of the deal. That's really solid first adventure for the 8th graders. I hope that I'll get the other 2 new people back. The 6th graders filled in, which did a fantastic job. Yes, and you absolutely should. You absolutely want to start just doing it like some, little tiny motel and say, "Hey, can we use one of your meeting rooms, small meeting room, fits like 50 people or something," right? See what they'd rent it to you for, and just do it. Or use like a VHW and rent a VHW, Legion, Legionnaire's Post, something like that. Any kind of little meeting place like that. You could just open it up and use it. But yeah, I go do it, man. Just start it. Just plan it for the spring and get it done. Get it done. What would you call the con, by the way? Smoky Con? Is that what you'd call it? Would you call it Smoky Con, maybe? Or, let's see. There's other names up there. I don't know. Anyway, if you're watching this, by the way, and you have a suggestion for what you might name the con in the Smokies, just leave a comment down below. Also, once again, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for hanging out for a little while tonight. Be sure to go and hit the thumbs up button. Tells me you like the video and you want more of them. But I will give another report Thursday. Thursday night, I'll be back with the 6th graders. We'll see what they will do. Smoky Con or Smoky RPG Con. Yeah, I like Smoky Con. Shorter the better, I think. I think the shorter the better. Smoky Con. I mean, there's other con names that I'm like, okay, we're just running out of con names. They're just making stuff up. But Smoky Con makes the most sense for where you're at. Saves time and ink because it's self-explanatory to some degree. But yeah, Thursday night will be my next I'll call them Tiny Dungeon Diaries. We'll call it that because that's really what I'm doing. I'm kind of sharing that. Dispatch sounds like I'm sending out a message, so that's kind of what I'm going with, but we'll call them Tiny Dungeon Diaries. But that is it, guys. I'm going to go and just hang out, enjoy the rest of my evening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Don't forget to watch if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. Don't forget to go back and watch the other videos. This will be hopefully in its own playlist. I'm going to make my own Tiny Dungeon playlist here so you guys can kind of get the full effect. But yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out, being a part. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go find some people to play with Death Angel, and I am sure that you will. Just start it. They'll come out of the woodwork, I think. People will show up that you probably know. He's like, why didn't you tell me you played? Right? That'd be the weird thing. All right. That's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being here, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Thursday night, 7:30 Central Standard Time. I will see you there.